Starting a podcast can be a great way to share your knowledge and expertise with the world. And in this video, we walk through the basics of starting your own podcast, from setting up your equipment to recording and publishing your very first episode. Hey there, I'm Brighton, the accountant marketing mentor, and I help accountants simplify their marketing and their communications so they can grow their accounting, bookkeeping, and financial planning businesses without wasting precious time and money. If you're thinking about starting a podcast but you're not sure where to start, this video is for you. In this video, we'll cover why podcasting is an incredibly powerful marketing tool for accountants, the basic equipment you'll need to get started, how to record and edit your episodes, and so much more. So let's stop wasting time. Let's dive right in. First off, why start a podcast? Well, podcasting is a great way to share your knowledge and expertise. And it's a powerful marketing tool that can help attract new clients and grow your business. I talk about content pillars all the time on this channel, and podcasting is by far one of my favorite kinds of content to create and also consume. Before we dig into why podcasting is a really great tool and how you can use it for your accounting firm, let's take a look at just a couple numbers that will give you some perspective on the growth of podcasting as a whole. So according to the Podcast Exchange, 31% of English-speaking Canadian adults listen to podcasts on a monthly basis, and that number is only growing. And half of Canadian podcast listeners are highly educated and in the hard-to-reach demographic of the 18 to 35-year-old. This gives you the amazing opportunity to connect with and provide value to an audience that is looking to learn and improve on their business or their startups. Here are a few more reasons why you should consider starting a podcast for your accounting firm. The first, podcasting is a great way to build thought leadership and establish yourself as an expert in your field. When you start a podcast, you're providing value and content that helps people learn and improve on their businesses. This establishes you as an expert in your field and helps you establish trust with your perfect customer, with your ideal client. And when it comes time to make a decision about who a client should work with, many people will choose the expert they know and trust over someone that they don't. Podcasting can help you build that trust with your ideal audience. The second reason is that it's a great way to connect with potential clients and build those relationships. When most people think about podcasting, they solely focus on the attention and the number of listeners that they actually get on each episode. And that's the only metric that they use to define success. I believe this is a huge mistake. A knowledge-based podcast where you share advice and information to your audience is a great excuse to network. If you are recording a podcast for local business owners in your city or town, think about the ideal thought leaders or the well-established thought leaders in your community already. Inviting them on your show is not only a really great opportunity to tap into their audience, but also to build that relationship with them directly. We all know that networking and building relationships is the absolute best way to grow your business, and inviting someone to talk about themselves and their business for about 30 to 60 minutes is a wonderful excuse to get together. Podcasting is a wonderful way to connect with like-minded professionals and build a community around your brand and around your firm. The third reason, and potentially the most obvious, is that podcasting can help you attract new clients and deepen your relationships with your current ones. Sharing valuable information on a regular basis will keep you top of mind as a go-to resource for advice in the future. Now that we've talked about why you should start a podcast, let's talk about how to get started. First, you need some gear. I am going to really, truly, honestly need to restrain myself here because I'm a big tech nerd. I love new gear, especially podcasting gear. You truly don't need the best of the best of gear, microphones, recording software, all that kind of stuff to get started. You really don't. I just love it. Huge tech nerd, so I'm gonna back off a little bit and give a couple different budget options for you to get started right away. So to start recording your podcast episodes, you'll need a few things. First, you'll need a microphone, and having a pop filter on that microphone will make a big difference. You'll also need an interface. This is pretty optional depending on your setup, and then some headphones. Let's start with the entry-level package. If you're looking for the quickest way to start recording a podcast, the simplest way to do that is with a USB microphone. it is the best way to go. And something like the Moano AU-AO4 is a really great starting microphone. And it comes with a pop filter, so it limits the amount of sounds or sounds that you end up leaking into your recordings. You can plug this microphone directly into your computer and then end up using it on Teams, Zooms, or any other conferencing platform that you're going to use to record your podcast. Obviously, as the price increases on the microphones, they sound a little bit better. So next up, we've got a middle of the road recommendation that I absolutely love. Let me actually grab that microphone that I love. This is the Rode Podmic, and it is fantastic. This mid-level microphone is hefty. It is heavy, it records really nicely, it looks awesome on camera, and the recording quality is fantastic for the budget. It's relatively affordable as well at $130 Canadian, probably around $100 US, and it records really great audio, looks awesome on camera, and is incredibly simple to set up. In this case, if you end up using a microphone like this, the plugin is actually an XLR. And that XLR plugin needs to go into an audio interface to then be transcoded and turned into a type of information that your computer can actually read. So you're gonna need an audio interface. I'm using the AI1 single channel to actually record this video right now, and it's great. It's a simple, small unit that connects to your computer, and this Rode AI1 actually allows you to record and monitor your audio at the same time so you can hear what you sound like while you're recording. If you end up getting the Rode Podmic and using the AI1, you are going to be covered for one channel. So you'll be able to do a really great sounding podcast interview over Teams. Your audio will sound pristine, but you're not really able to record multiple channels on that unit. So let's talk about the top level that I would recommend today and show you how we can actually record really, really great multi-person interviews in the same room. The most professional microphone that you could probably get for podcasting, and you have seen it everywhere, is the Shure SM7B, which is the quintessential podcast microphone that you will see all the major podcasters using. And really what it is a dynamic microphone. And this Podmic is also a dynamic microphone. For an audio interface at the top level, I always recommend the RODEcaster Pro. You've probably seen this mixer all over YouTube, and it is an incredible piece of technology. I will link you to a video right here that there's the RODEcaster Pro 1 and the RODEcaster Pro 2, and one of my favorite YouTubers, Tom, actually goes through all of the intricate details of what this thing can do. So I'm going to refer to Tom Buck, and he will be able to show you exactly the ins and outs of this piece of technology. That honestly is the easiest way to record high quality in-person interviews. And you can actually record directly to this piece of technology. You don't have to bring a computer with you. You can bring this, 2 microphones, 2 cables, plug it in, have a really great conversation, and it's gonna sound fantastic. I've shared 3 different options, and all 3 will get the job done. So now that we've talked about gear a little bit, now what? Now we're gonna talk about how to record and edit your podcast. Now that you've got the gear, it's just time to start recording. Before you start, make sure you spend some time planning out your episodes. Planning in advance and having about 4 to 12 episodes, if I'm being truly honest, in the bank that you've recorded, conversations done, will be an incredible asset to you moving forward, because you're not going to have to worry about potentially missing a month or missing a week. All you have to do is pull from the bucket of interviews that you've already done, and you'll still have a bunch of content in the pipeline. So I would start with planning out your episodes. Who are you going to talk to? What kind of conversations are you going to have? And record all of those episodes so you have them in the bank ready to use. So make sure that you take some time to plan out your episodes. What topics are you going to cover? Who will be your guests? How long is each episode going to be? And then once you have a plan in place and you have all those episodes, you just got to start recording. Most people record their podcast interviews in person, but it's not always possible. And as we've transitioned into a more hybrid online working environment, Zoom and Skype and Teams have become so ingrained in our lives that that's also another great place that you can actually record your podcast. However, what I would recommend is a really great platform called Riverside.fm. Riverside allows you to record incredibly high quality audio and video natively on your computer in a web browser, and also the same for your guest. And what that means is while you're recording your episode, your audio and your video is being natively downloaded onto your computer. It's the same for your guest. And then after you're done recording, then it's being uploaded to the cloud. This results in much higher quality audio and video. If we were just recording to the cloud like in Zoom, everything gets downgraded. Your audio gets downgraded, your video gets downgraded. It just doesn't end up being the best way to record high quality content for your podcast. So Riverside FM is an incredibly great tool, really affordable, and I recommend it for all of my podcast clients. I use it for my own podcast when I'm podcasting, and it is one of my favorite tools. It's really, really great, super easy to use. So check out the link in the description to get started with Riverside.fm. Highly recommend it. You will love this tool. One thing to keep in mind while you're recording your podcast is to limit the background noise. Make sure you pick a quiet spot to record your podcast and avoid any distractions. And also make sure you are wearing headphones. If you're not wearing headphones, you're gonna get what we call feedback. And what feedback is, it's the sound coming out of your speakers, going into your microphone, and then it ends up being a loop. That's why it's called a feedback loop. So make sure you're wearing headphones. It helps with echo, it helps with feedback, and simplifies your editing process. Trust me. Make sure you're wearing headphones and try and reduce that background noise. Once you've recorded an episode, it is time to edit. And editing can be a really fun or really challenging thing for some people, but all you need is a piece of software like GarageBand on an iPad, Audacity on a computer. And for me, I use Adobe Audition all the time. I'm using it right now to actually help me record this video. And Adobe Audition is also part of the Creative Cloud Suite, which I use all the time for all of our creative and collaborative projects. So check that out in the description below if you want to get your hands on some Adobe software. It's fantastic. Now that the episode is recorded and edited, it's time to publish it. And the simplest way to publish a podcast is with Anchor. Anchor allows you to upload your podcast and enter your show notes and publish it to all of the top podcasting platforms in one click. That is it. It is the simplest way to do it. We've gone through a lot here, and I actually share the gear, process, platforms, tech that we use, gear that we use in the Ultimate CPA Marketing Playbook, which you can download at marketmycpafirm.com. So check that out. All of the stuff that I'm talking about right now is actually highlighted and documented in that guide. So be sure to check that out. It's completely free, and you can download it right now. Now, here are a couple tips for promoting your podcast. You've got it published, it's out with the world, but nobody may know about it. And you need to let them know about it and show them where to go in order to actually listen to it. So here's a really quick checklist for you to get started. The first is to make sure that you've got really great, attractive cover art and episode descriptions that are optimized for search engine. The best thing that you can do is create some branded templates. If you're publishing a podcast on behalf of your accounting firm is going to have its own brand. It's going to have its colors, typography, logo. Use those brand elements to create a really eye-catching cover art image that you can use not only on your socials, but also on every single episode. Then you can also use some of these templates for social media posts and stuff like that as well. But that is the best place to start. Start with a really great cover art and episode description so that when you post your podcast, it is a little bit easier to discover and also is a little bit more enticing to click on and listen to. The second is to share your podcast with your friends, families, colleagues, employees, clients, and on social media. My favorite thing about a podcast is there's so much opportunity to grab so much amazing content. You're having a long form conversation. And within that long form conversation, there are bound to be little tidbits of information or quotes that somebody says that can be pulled and used in different forms of media that you can share. We call this, and I talked about it earlier, the content pillar model, which Gary Vaynerchuk famously coined and talks about all the time. So if somebody says something really engaging and exciting or funny in your podcast episode, make a little video clip of that. Make a little quote image that you can use and share on social media. Turn it into like a YouTube short or a TikTok video. All of these different things are just being leveraged from that long form piece of media, that long form episode that you've just published on your podcast. So take that piece. You're not coming up with anything really new. You're just repurposing the episode that you just published. Break it down, share it on socials, and that will really help drive more traffic to the full episode. And the third quick tip here for promoting your podcast is to share that new episode on your website and blog on a dedicated podcast page. Everybody knows about search engine optimization. Somebody's looking for something, they search in Google, and a list of results comes up. And what Google does is it scans all the websites, all the web pages on the internet, and tries to present the best solution to that search query. What you can do to help elevate your brand and your firm on Google is create and publish regular content that is value add. And this podcast can kind of hit a few birds with the same stone in the sense that you record your podcast, you publish it to all your platforms, but you create a post that's like a blog and take the transcript of that interview and publish it to your website. You can optimize it for keywords and all of the SEO stuff, but it is just the easiest way to continuously come up with new content and leverage it in different ways without having to create a brand new Instagram reel, a new LinkedIn post, a new podcast, a new blog that is all different. You use that same pillar and break it down so you can use it in all of the different places. The last thing that I want to talk about is how to structure your episodes. I like to think of podcast episodes as being like mini conversations. And one thing that can be really helpful is to come up with a template for your episode. And this doesn't mean that every episode has to sound the exact same, but it can be really helpful. And I have a general structure that I follow that I'll share with you. So here's an example. First, I would start with an intro. An introduction is where you'll introduce yourself and the topic and the name of your podcast. You can also give a brief overview of what this episode is going to be about. Then there's the meat, the main body, where you will get to the meat of the topic. And this is where you'll share your knowledge and expertise, and your guests will do the same. You can also let your listeners know how they can get in touch with you and your guests to find out more information about what they do. What I'll often do is actually record an intro and an outro and a commercial and use that in every single episode, and it really simplifies the editing process and elevates the production value of the podcast as well. Well, I know I only scratched the surface of how to create a podcast for your firm, but we'll get into more of the details and the nitty-gritty in future videos. Let me know if you have any questions about starting your podcast in the comments below, or if you already have your own podcast, link it below. I actually want to check it out and listen. Thanks again for watching. If you're interested in more content just like this, hit the subscribe button, ring that bell, hit that like button if you found this video helpful. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you next time.